In further discussion to Sunday's video, as well as last Thursday's video on transmutation, which is the alchemical art of surrender to the mental state to express accordingly, fear into courage as inspired by The 50th Law by 50 Cent and Robert Greene, which is a book on practical mental alchemy, as well as the Kabbalion by the Three Initiates. We recognize that emotions deserve a sympathetic listen so we can understand what these fears reveal rather than condemning them. The great work in mental alchemy, which then can be expressed as the arts, sciences, innovations, you name it. So today we're going to discuss this further and add this to the Flow series. And this conversation is inspired by Oliver Spendley. So Oliver very much enjoys these videos, and he listens to these videos while he performs his great work expression, which is building furniture. So I'm going to put a link in the description to his Instagram. And he so graciously gifted a piece, which I placed in today's thumbnail. I actually have it hanging up on my wall, which is entitled Flow in Focus. So he sent it to me. He's based out of UK. And now I have this beautiful artwork which he created, which I can reflect upon and inspire me, because I believe that artists express the thumbprint of the degree of realizing the great work within, the reconciliation within. And through reflecting upon art, I experience deeper inspiration. And it further inspires us to also express accordingly. So looking at his website here, Oliver's work is focused around, he says, co-creation with nature and the timber that he chooses to use. Now, him and I had a conversation about his process, very fascinating. He's very much in harmony with the idea of seeing the inner as real as the outer and allowing the fusion of internal and nature to fuse together to allow in harmony a creative expression. So this approach manifests in one-of-a-kind furniture and artwork for the environmentally conscious client, collector, fusing nature into our homes. I'll put a link in the description to his Instagram. I recommend checking out his profile. So thank you very much, Oliver, for sending me your piece. I will cherish it greatly because I believe what we experience as we enjoy somebody's artistic expression, be it a piece like this or the performing arts, is a revelation of who they are, but also inspiration for us to do the same in regards to our definite chief aim, goals, visions, etc. As was further inspired by the Emerald Tablets, in which it stated that the light within reflects upon the tablets and reveals the meaning. So that's when we're experiencing art, we are reflecting upon it psychologically, symbolically, and it awakens something within us. It reveals to us the power of our mind, imagination. Now let's discuss this by relating over to this quote here from the Master Key System. He says, Nikola Tesla, he with the great intellect, one of the greatest inventors of all ages, the man who has brought forth the most amazing realities, always visualizes his inventions before attempting to work them out. He does not rush to embody them in form and then spend his time in correcting defects. Having first built up the idea in his imagination, he holds it there as a mental picture to be reconstructed and improved by his thought. In this way, he writes in The Electrical Experimenter, I am enabled to rapidly develop and perfect a conception without touching anything. When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of, and see no fault anywhere, I put into concrete form the product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived it should. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. So this is what happens as we express while we are in flow. So I'm going to add this video here to our flow series, and we're going to focus more on this part here, harmony between challenge and skill. Here are important parts in regards to flow. Number 1, a clear vision. Number 2, immediate feedback. Number 3, harmony between challenge and skill. Number 4, actions and awareness become one, which then facilitates identification with fear, doubt, and indecision tapering away, and even time and space being altered as a person becomes autotelic with their creative expression, with their process of innovation, as an entrepreneur with your service, while building your product, while servicing your client. All of this is an expression of mind. And the degree that we do this represents the degree of reconciliation within, of seeming differences, removing conflict out of mind, making peace, we could say, with what goes on within. We discussed this by reflecting upon the Kabbalion last Thursday, in which we spoke of the principle of polarity. And so let's get into discussion, a clear vision. As we work with this information, what we've been discussing over the months and years, we start to reveal a higher degree of vividness of imagination. And we can experience even more so what Nikola Tesla described. Certainly this has been my experience. I see the world of imagination to be as vivid and real as this five-sensory experience. And it really does become that way when I'm involved with a creative expression. For me, these videos, and even when I'm performing certain hobbies, such as snowboarding or any kind of activity, I'm noticing this more so. This wasn't the case before because I found that I was too biased and rigid in my ways of thinking. Too much condemnation and shame and identification with certain thinking patterns in relation to fear, in which through the journey I made peace with those thinking patterns, reconciled and found the true and accurate meaning in relation to the experience, blending the sixth sense with the five senses, seeing them as one. So we see in our imagination a clear vision, and we perform our activity, whatever it may be, the project that we're working on, the performance as a musician or an athlete, as we discussed in Sunday's video, the performing arts, which is actually surrendering to the vision realized. Now, harmony between challenge and skill and immediate feedback. Let's look at these. So, I mentioned the idea of flow breakers, as I call it, flow breakers. And the idea is that the thinking patterns in relation to what we're experiencing in the performance is what is causing the flow breakers. I've mentioned this many times. We could see reality from the place of love, flow, harmony, or we could see reality from the place of force, frustration, or various degrees in between. Whatever we believe to be true plays out as the theater of the journey on the way to realizing our vision or expressing creatively. So thus we want to understand what our thinking patterns are to the experiences that we have during our creative expression that seem to break our flow, recognizing that the flow breaker is within. And we have the opportunity to, in the moment, as we discussed in Sunday's video, understand that we are identifying with certain thinking patterns and surrender to the vision realized by recognizing that what we saw in imagination is the reality of what is being expressed through our work. And if a person has challenges doing this, I recommend working with the power of our subconscious mind to reveal the unconscious interpretations in regards to the experiences, which seems to break our flow, reconcile within ourselves, which then, when we make peace with these thinking patterns, we experience a heightened degree of flow. What this proves in equation is certain thinking patterns, beliefs, interpretations from within is expressing on the journey to realizing our vision. And it is causing either the flow or the flow breakers. And it can be revealed physically, emotionally, or a combination. Now, the emotion of fear, if we experience it in regards to what we're doing, such as a person doesn't feel like they're good enough to express how they truly want to express their art, or anything in relation to fear, whatever that meaning is, can be sympathetically understood and reconciled through love. This allows us to surrender in that moment when we see things from the perspective of love, as in I accept myself. I perform more like how I see myself in my vision. And eventually, as a person continues to encourage this uplifting, empowering, true and accurate inner conversations, inner dialogues, from the perspective of the vision realized, will actually be able to experience more flow as they work on their projects, their initiatives, etc. And they'll notice that it is easier to do what we discussed in Sunday's video, which is to surrender to the vision realized. Now, we identify flow breakers. We reflect upon the thinking in regards to the flow breakers. We could do this real time in the moment. We get better at it with practice. Or we can reflect upon it at the end of the day. And as we reflect upon it at the end of the day, we recognize that these interpretations seem to spawn, which a lot of times are revealed by our emotional reactivity. Thus, we understand to a deeper degree how we can transmute the fear energy into courage energy. We actually find within ourselves the true and accurate meaning by running through the revision process. Now, I'll put a link in the description to a video in which I explain the revision process and how I work with it to run through the events that occurred in regards to the flow breaker and see it for how it truly is, knowing that that information impresses the subconscious mind. And then when I go into the workshop or whatever it is that I'm doing to express again, I'm noticing that I'm expressing a lot more with ease, with flow, with love, and it feels effortless. Thus, our beliefs in regards to whatever it is we're experiencing each day on the journey to realizing our vision are externalizing as the experiences of life. We can imagine a force-based journey or a peace-based and various degrees in between, which is revealed by what we polarize to, or as we've been saying, what we unconsciously say I am to, in regards to the experiences which reveal our beliefs. The beliefs are playing out as theater, either encouraging the flow or breaking the flow. And we have the opportunity then, really, if we want to identify these thinking patterns. No need to shame, condemn, or resist fear within mind. Recognize the source within and understand, rather than encouraging the unnecessary force-based way which breaks the flow. Now, as a person does this, what they will notice is the actions and awareness becoming one, more so as they perform, as they work on their creative project. As an entrepreneur, as they lead others in conversations, they will notice a higher degree of sixth sense, sympathetic understanding of the experiences and others. And as a result, action and awareness become one. Identification with fear, doubt, and indecision tapers away. And the activity and person becomes autotelic. They notice that they are in the zone. Now, there are many degrees of flow. And what I always aim to do in these videos is to encourage the possibility, as I experience, to place yourself into the flow with whatever it is you're doing and get into this deep flow in which a person becomes autotelic. They surrender to the vision. And what I have found when I committed to making flow a priority in 2017 was, as Steve Jobs had discussed in his commencement speech, he said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you want to become. Now, that part in the beginning, have the courage, it required me to understand the meaning that I'm giving to the different experiences. By understanding my fears, rather than running away from them, I would understand what it is within myself that I was unconsciously associating with, which seems to play out as these flow breaker experiences, externalized as environments, people, circumstances, etc. Have the courage, because your heart and intuition genuinely want to experience, sees reality the way it is in your mind's eye as the truth. And we allow it to express through our being. And if we experience any resistance, stress, frustration, it's important to observe our communication. Our communication in regards to those experiences, both with ourselves and others, reveals our beliefs. If a person really believes it's going to be a stress-based journey to creatively express, no need to shame or condemn. Encourage seeing things from a different perspective. Because what the mind is doing is the mind is expressing. So let's look at this further. We have the ability to create mental images. Mental images of ourselves that we identify with serve as a guide to which our future expresses, both on the journey and the destination. I value the entire spectrum, the desire to express, the vision in which it's stimulated in imagination in regards to the desire, the journey to realizing the vision, which has opportunity for making peace within ourselves, which then plays out as the theatrical experience of peace on the way to realizing the vision. And I also value the destination. So the desire, the vision, the journey, and the destination, I value all of them, and I see them as one. So when he says, make the pattern clear, do not be afraid, make it exactly what you want, remember that no limitation can be placed upon you by anyone but yourself. You are not limited as to any external cause or material. The infinite is your supply. Construct it in your imagination so it can be allowed to express through you. And I recommend reading the Master Key System. I've done a discussion on it. I'll put a link in the description. I focused on the exercises for revealing a heightened degree of vividness in imagination, which I trust will be very helpful. So let's zone in here. Do not be afraid. Make it exactly what you want. Remember that no limitation can be placed upon you by anyone but yourself. You are not limited as to any external cause or material. That's something that we really want to meditate upon. Because the truth of this statement right here is that when a person has understood their fears, by essentially committing to a project or an activity and observing any flow breakers and understanding within myself what is breaking my flow. Used to be back in the days that I would blame the external. This person broke my flow, or this environment broke my flow, or this and that broke my flow. When I make peace within myself that it is my thinking pattern in relation to, all those things change. They change to reflect what's going on within. So on the journey to realizing a vision and the commitment to the project or activity in which prior to going into the activity, you get into the flow, and then you maintain your flow during the activity. If the flow is broken, we want to understand our subconscious beliefs in regards to the experience that seems to create that experience. So he says, one thing will lead to another. Thought will lead to action. Action would develop methods. Methods would develop friends. and friends will bring about circumstances, and finally the third step, or materialization, will have been accomplished. So he says it in a very flow-based way. Like one thing will lead to the next. Some way, somehow, you get to the destination. You might not know how, but some way, somehow, it's going to work out. And to actually have this experience, this flow-based journey to the destination, upon realizing many goals and definite chief aims in my life, I recognize the importance of making peace with the different aspects of the journey. And so when we relate this to the activity of flow, okay, whatever it is, we have an opportunity. See, when you sit down and you work on your project, or you're practicing in the performing arts, or you're on stage, or you're in your workshop, you already have a clear vision, and we want to understand that that vision is being expressed through you. It's being expressed through you, and we allow it to express. This is what I mean by Sunday's video, surrender to the vision. And we find that it's easier to surrender to the vision, realize, and maintain, or I could say get into the flow, maintain the flow, and become autotelic when we, during that session, don't have any flow breakers or have very few flow breakers. Now, in the earlier stages, a person might have a lot of flow breakers, and so they experience more of a force-based journey to realizing the vision. But they can, if they would like to, understand these flow breakers and find these thinking patterns within themselves in relation to the flow breakers by working with the power of the subconscious mind. And I'll put a link in the description to the almost 2-hour video that I did on the power of the subconscious mind to help us with this. As we identify these thinking patterns, we change as far as thinking patterns go, what we identify with, what we say I am too, in regards to that experience. What we notice is that we find the flow in it. So the harmony between challenge and skill. So let's say a person is experiencing a challenge when they're expressing in public speaking. The challenge is interpreted as fear. These emotions are revealing their fear energy. Now, as a result of the unconscious, this is happening unconsciously, identification of the fear experience. They experience something when it comes to the performance. Maybe they look at the audience and they see the audience is not enjoying the performance. Now that's their interpretation that they're assigning to the audience. Upon identifying with that interpretation, they go into a different state of mind. And from that different state of mind, they begin to experience whatever theater in relation to the audience not accepting them. Now, they might go on and think that this is just how the performance goes. Every time they do it, they will experience it, and they'll believe that this is just part of the process. This is just how it goes. You just experience this, and this is part of the journey to realizing the vision. What they can benefit from is reflecting upon the performance at the end of the performance or with somebody, perhaps somebody that they trust or a mastermind, and say, this is how I'm experiencing the audience. Is this really true? And upon reflection, they discover a belief that they have. They perhaps believe that that's just how the performance goes. Every time they perform, they're expecting that the audience is not going to accept them. When they discover that belief, it's important again, not to shame or condemn, just recognize that this is a belief that we are identifying with. And then we say, what's a true belief? What's a true belief in relation to the vision? Now they can find it within themselves. When they ask the question within themselves, they will find the true meaning. Or if they have not developed the ability to listen to themselves to that degree, they could speak with their mastermind or somebody that can help them. Perhaps they can seek some counsel. Then what is revealed as a belief is people accept me for who I am as I accept myself. I'm able to see this in the performance as I observe people. Now, as they subconsciously identify with that belief, and that belief becomes their consciousness, recognizing that the outer is a reflection of the inner, when they go to the performance next time and they see the audience, they begin to experience the audience from that perspective. That becomes the new belief. Now, as a result of that, they will notice that they will maintain their flow. What they will also notice is that the audience will enjoy the performance even more. What they will notice is that they will also enjoy the performance even more. As a result, that identification with fear no longer exists in regards to how they experience the audience during the performance. And what they notice is that the audience receive them exactly like how they see themselves to be. And so now this is just one example. There are many different examples where we see our beliefs playing out as experiences. And a lot of times we learn these beliefs from others. And what we want to do is understand that whatever we believe and identify with will play out as the theater of how we believe it to be. And we can actually find within ourselves or in conversation with others, certainly I always aim to share ones that I've discovered on this journey as well, which we can identify with, which are actually resonant. This is the key. We want to identify with the beliefs that are resonant to how we really want to be, how we authentically want to express. And we'll know when we find them. And in reference to what Steve Jobs had also mentioned in the commencement speech, don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And so what we find is the beliefs that are in harmony and in contribution to our vision. That's how we maintain a harmony between what may appear as challenge and the skills. The skill is in mind, and the skill is maintaining that state of mind that's one with the vision. And it's easier to maintain the state of mind that's one with the vision when we have a supporting belief system, which is one with the vision. And if beliefs seem to show up in regards to fear, which is revealed in our emotional reactivity, we could see them as messengers and understand what they mean, understand what it is revealing within ourselves as far as our thoughts go. And we can then find the true and accurate thinking. And what you'll find is that when you continue to do this a little bit more so every day, is you'll notice that it's easier for you to get into the flow and maintain it during your creative expressions because you already have a clear vision. And reality is revealing what's going on within. That's the immediate feedback. And we want that harmony between challenge and skill. If something shows up in which we identify it and it seems to show up that way repeatedly from the perspective of fear, doubt, or indecision, then we can find the belief within ourselves, make peace with it, and then when we show up the next time to perform, what we'll notice is that it's easier for actions and awareness to become one. We'll notice that fear, doubt, and indecision taper away or do not exist during the performance. We notice that time and space is altered. The activity in the person becomes autotelic. And as a result, going back to the beginning here, it's easy for us to do what he said here. I noticed this with my performances and in my innovative projects. And so let's reflect upon it. He said, Nikola Tesla, he with the giant intellect, one of the greatest inventors of all ages, the man who has brought forth the most amazing realities, always visualizes his inventions before attempting to work them out. He does not rush to embody them in form and then spend his time in correcting defects. Having first built up the idea in his imagination, he holds it there as a mental picture to be reconstructed and improved by his thoughts. He is not afraid in mind. He has peace in mind. He has love in mind, and he can explore his imagination in all its vividness to construct it exactly like how he wants it to be and identify with that is how it shall express. And so it states, in this way, he writes, in the electrical experimenter, I'm able to rapidly develop and perfect a conception without touching anything. When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of and see no fault anywhere, I put it into concrete form, the product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived it should, In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. So by working with this information here, we're putting more emphasis on this part. I put into concrete form the product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived it should. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. And if we do this from a place of flow, we will allow or express into concrete form through us effortlessly. And if we experience unnecessary convoluted behaviors or friction, we can understand what the flow breaker is in mind via our belief, and understand that there could be beliefs that perhaps we've been identifying with for years, and those beliefs seem to play out again and again and again. And when we make peace with those beliefs, we'll notice that our experience reflects how we believe it to be. And so when it comes to artistic expression, innovation, entrepreneurship, or performing arts, I always encourage a flow-based journey to realizing the vision, because then we will truly enjoy expressing the great work. And so as Steve Jobs had said, the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And so you love what you do when you experience the love during the performance, during the project, during the creative expression. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and encourage this with an auto-suggestion. We could say, I value the emotions, the physical aspects, the mental aspects as revealing what I am identifying with. Thus, the experiences reveal the beliefs that I'm identifying with, and I have the power to surrender to the vision realized on my day-to-day journey by maintaining flow, by identifying with the true beliefs that I reveal on the journey to realizing my vision. They show up in conversations with myself, in conversations with others, to bring forth a higher degree of peace by sympathetically understanding what I polarize to. As a result, I'm able to easily surrender during the journey to realizing my vision from the perspective of my vision realized, recognizing that body is an expression of mind. All is an expression of mind. As a result, my actions and awareness become one. Time and space is altered as I become autotelic and one with my performance, one with my creative expression. Upon completion of my invention, others who experience the product or service are inspired to also find within themselves what they truly love and express accordingly. As a result, I'm able to let it be and let it flow. And I find now that it is a way of life, understanding my desires, my visions, and valuing the journey and destination, seeing them all as one. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.